What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our real estate and construction YouTube channel down here in the beautiful state of Texas. And today we have a wonderful guest from Houston, Texas. We have George Salas. How you doing today, George?
Aaron, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Pleasure to be here, first of all, and thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Now, I know this has been in the works for a bit, so it's great to connect with you, and I'm excited for today's show.
Absolutely, let's crush it, bro.
Yes, sir. So for those of us who aren't familiar with you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. My name is George Salas, and I am a short-term rental specialist. So we specialize in median luxury property. So we take single-family median houses and convert them into high cash flowing six-figure SDRs. So that's our specialty. Been in the business for about 4.5 years. So we'd like to really just focus on more of a higher end side now. We started the business a few years ago, doing all kinds of short-term rentals, right? And what they say, the riches are in the niches. So we transition a little bit over the years, right? So now, our focus is doing median and above, and it really taking, how we're building our portfolio and how we're helping other clients to take these properties and making them just a lot higher profits than most of them out there. Because I know there are a lot of Airbnbs and a lot of short-term rentals out there. So we definitely pride ourselves in making that happen.
Absolutely. And when you use the word median, is that a price point, or what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's a median price point and above. So median would be our threshold, right? So we don't do anything below median just because I would say median houses and below just don't fit the profile for us. So what we teach, what we do is median and above, median priced.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's an interesting time to be part of the short-term rental market.
Yeah, man. So, since you're in Houston, I guess I'll jump a little bit into what's happening here in the industry, right? So, I did a market update about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and when I was doing the research, I realized that Houston was number one in actually supply increase, 57% year over year. So, like, it went from having about 9,800 listings to having like 16,000, right? So, it's like 15,700 or something. So it's pretty interesting. As always, right, it is time to pivot. So what we're doing to pivot from what's happening right now, and also just from making better moves in the future, is as we launch newer properties, we're creating a lot more unique properties, right? We're creating also a lot more unique base our entire strategy on experiential rather than the basic or like even nice homes, right? You have a lot of nice homes out there, but when you have so much inventory and so much supply, and then your demand only increases at like 20-25%. That was the demand increase year over year in Houston. I think it was like 23%, but while your supply is increasing double. So what happens is you are saturating a market, right? And essentially we've seen a lot of investors from East Coast come here, and also from California and all that. So even with that, I mean, you still have a lot of people that think that short-term rentals are a great investment. You still have a lot of demand, but now what you've really got to do if you're starting this business is put yourself on the top 10%, right? So that's a big thing, right? And then that's what we pride ourselves on, right? Taking our own portfolio and taking other people and then just creating these six-figure short-term rentals.
Absolutely. No, that's a great overview about what y'all do. And maybe to rewind a little bit, I'm curious about your background. Could you, describe maybe where you're from and how you got into this part of the business?
I would love to do that. Absolutely, brother. Sorry, I forgot to even bring that up. So I was born in this small little town called Tarapoto in Peru. Okay. And this was about 38 years ago, right? So I moved here at the age of 15. So I've been here for about 21, 22 years, right? So I moved here at the age of 15, and my journey really started in this adobe house, right? I was born there, and then I grew up to 15 just playing soccer on the street, brother. And it really just being free out there, growing in a very small town. And when I moved here, it was a big transition, right? And I essentially went into, at the age of 22, I went into the hospitality industry, right? So I was working in marketing different venues, and I started a marketing company, and it wasn't really a company back then. It was more like a service. I was providing a service to hospitality venues like restaurants and then bars and stuff like that. And then I had teams, I had people. So I did that for about 8-9 years until we launched our own, our own venue. So we launched our own venue in 2016, right? And then it was a journey, right? So from 2007 to 2016, I was the marketer, I was the event planner, I was the producer. And then in 2016 is when we opened up, I had a huge investment. We put a team together. I was the marketing partner. I wasn't the operator. So I wasn't the one making the main decisions. I partnered with this group. And then guess what? We opened up. The cool part was opening up your own venue, right? And being able to be finally an owner, what they call that. The bad part was that we opened up in a lot of debt, Aaron. And I had very little knowledge about running a business. So someone else was running it, like this is like 12 years ago, right? So then, well, no, it wasn't 12. We opened up in 20. So it's 6 years ago. I'm so sorry. 12 years ago when I started in the industry. So 6 years ago is when we opened this venue up. And essentially, we started with debt, and the business was good, but we had so much debt that about a year and a half later, like the venue couldn't sustain its bills. Right. So we ended up shutting our doors down, right, about a year and a half after. Right. So there was nothing I really could do other than bringing people together and then putting the marketing side together. Right. But when you started with so much debt. So the lesson there was like never put your eggs in one basket. Also, never build a venue on a leased land. Right. I was like, oh, my God, what is this guy thinking? And a lot of it was my fault. I didn't know any better. Right. So I ended up partnering with this guy. So that was the worst and best mistake I've ever made. Worst because I lost everything I had. I invested $410,000. And best was because it was a true college tuition. It taught me a lot of things, right? It taught me how to really run and operate a business from a marketing perspective. It taught me to really look truly at who you're partnering with, right? And then at the end of the day, I made a decision to change my life to real estate. So I've been in real estate since about 2017 and a half, like almost 2018 is when I made a decision. And that's how we started, doing everything. So, and then from there it was fix and flipping, wholesaling, owner finance. My first year, I started with fix and flips, right? And then we did a bunch of wholesales that year, brought in a couple $100,000 in fix and flips and wholesaling income, right? I lost some 2 deals that year. So still lessons there as I was growing and growing pains. Very little for myself. Like I was driving a 2001 truck, right, with no AC, and then the sad part was that owners struggle, right? Every day I look at myself, and most people don't even realize how far they can come in 3 years, but they overestimate what they can do in a year. So like I'm looking back at 3-4 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I've kind of grown up a little. I've really stepped up a little bit, right? So from there, I figured out in the middle of 2018 what short-term rentals were, and then that was the game changer for me, right? So I dug deep and I said, like, one day I want to take this model, right, this vacation rental model, and build a massive following, a mass movement where I can make people superstars, right? I can make people short-term rental superstars, because every real estate investor, Aaron, deserves that cash flow, right? And every real estate investor deserves the cash flow, because I know it's tough, because I went through it for many years, right? I was suffering from no cash flow. I was doing, flips, and I was always have to putting my money up, and I was doing wholesale deals, and I had to wait for the deals. So the recurring income and the cash flow of short-term rentals is amazing. So that's how I ended up starting. I didn't even mention to you before the call, but we're starting a movement, right? And this is not a company. This is not a program. It's a movement, right? It's a movement. And then the movement is called Super STRs, like superstars, because STRs is a logo, right? So our movement is for real estate investors and real estate entrepreneurs who want the freedom of cash flow, the freedom of time, the freedom that they all, like, we all deserve. But I've created it through short-term rentals, whether it's managing short-term rentals, buying them, leasing them. I've done all these systems. So from there till now, right, we've We've been able to build a really amazing following. We have a pretty nice portfolio doing between 80 on 70, $80,000 a month now in the low months, 130, 140, 150 on the high months per month, right? And that's obviously seasonality with your short-term rental business, right? And then we're launching our second coaching program, and we have like about 55 clients so far in between both of them, right? We're launching a fund, right, pretty soon, and we're going to be, raising capital for vacation rentals. So we're doing a pretty cool concept there. So, and then I've got an amazing, amazing network of fellas like yourself, right? Professionals who really want to better themselves and who really want to help other people. So I commend you for that. And I hope that was a kind of a brief description. I know I went a little rumbling into there, but I hope you appreciate it and everybody else listening too.
No, George, I greatly appreciate that insight. And it's interesting how, no one wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to lose 410 grand, right? But it's interesting how, you frame that in a way to where it's a positive that was really a driving force to where you are now. So I commend that.
I appreciate that. And it takes years and years of like really looking at it. Because at first I was so angry, bro. I was so broke, right? And I was, I remember sitting in my kitchen. I was renting an apartment at that time. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do with my life, bro. I don't know what to do. I have no money. Have built nothing, lost my entire business. It's like, I don't know. I'm lost. But I got up, like I was crying, and I said, this is not going to happen for me, right? I'm going to become, I didn't think of superstar at that time, but I'm going to become somebody, right? And I was reading several books, and I started with like The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which is a mindset book. That was my first real estate book, right? By Gary Keller. I loved that book, right? And I was envisioning what my future could be like at that time. But it's like when you fall down, get up harder. Right? Learn, create new habits, create different things that are going to make you better. They're going to help you become the person that you've envisioned, but also you don't make the same mistakes. Right? So it's been a journey, brother. It's been a journey.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I find that so interesting. And I'm curious as well, you kind of touched on it a little bit before. You obviously gave a lot of really compelling reasons to invest in short-term rentals, but it's funny in real estate, you kind of get this shiny object syndrome, right? You're online, you see, oh, land looks nice, and then, oh, multifamily, or oh, this, or oh, that. But what's unique about a short-term rental product that other parts of the business don't have?
Okay, so the number one, right? The number one thing, and let me even rephrase this. There's a few, and then you can make these few your choices based on your ultimate goal, right? So you could create a short-term rental or vacation rental business, Aaron, and make that a lifestyle business. Okay. If your goal is to create a lifestyle where you can have 5 properties, because that's all it takes. And I call it, we call it 5 houses to freedom, right? So if you could take just 5 properties and create a lifestyle business, right? Short-term rentals gives you the ability to do that, right? And while you are cash flowing, second benefit, immensely, like ginormous, right? And that's why our group is called 6 Figure Short-Term Rentals for Real Estate Investors, because that's all we focus on. If a property doesn't make 6 figures and doesn't give me 20% gross rent, I call it the gross rent multiplier, right? If a property doesn't give me 20% of my purchase price or value, right, then we don't get it. Okay, so that to me is super unique, because you can't find no other short-term rental strategy where you can buy something for $1 million, make 200, something for 500,000, make 100 grand, and that is powerful, right? And I'm not talking about just that, right? We go to a certain point to where we also give you the gross actual ROI about it. So like if you're making 100 grand on a $500,000 property, you are profiting like 40 to 50% after management, right? Because the numbers are so high, and in your PITI is only going to be to, it's not going to be as high, right? Obviously, right now with interest rates going up and everything, it might be a little bit higher than normal, but we still look at 20% or more. That's the whole threshold for us, right? So we've got like the back of our hands.
Absolutely. And I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, it's all about the numbers. And it's interesting as well how, you use the word lifestyle, right? You can kind of, and, lifestyle and really that ability to scale that maybe other parts of the business, you can't do that.
No, absolutely. So you can't do that with, I mean, hotels you could do that, right? But I mean, but you can't do that with an apartment complex, with land, with storage, or anything like that. So that's why I personally love that, even though I didn't really have that as my goal. I just wanted to create something that I could take that was a blue ocean, right? And then I could really build something that was consistent and it was predictable, right? So short-term rentals have been consistent and predictable for me. My goal wasn't to do the lifestyle deal, right? My goal is to build a lifestyle business today, and that's what we're doing. So it just depends, and you can always shift your goals as you grow, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious as well to get your insight, given that you've been in Houston for so long. Could you maybe describe a bit about, what the real estate market in Houston, what's going on down here? What do you see it different from a few years back, or where do you see the city growing?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen the properties that we used to buy in 2018 for 350. They were, 3,000 to 3,500 square feet, right? So we were buying at $100 a square foot, beautiful, gorgeous properties, right? And we were either flipping them or keeping them or wholesaling them or whatever, right? You can't find anything below 150,000. Sorry, $150 a square foot any longer. So I've seen a lot of growth, right? I've seen prices skyrocket over the last year and a half by 20, 30, 40% in some areas, which is pretty crazy, right? So because, I mean, there's a lot of movement, right? So as the fifth largest city in America, Houston is really taking that toll. So real estate prices are still behind, in my opinion, than your East Coast, West Coast major cities, right? Like Chicago, LA and New York and all that, but we're not that far behind, right? So I think fifth, I would say we're in the top 10 of, maybe a little bit more behind than the top 10 in prices. But I mean, you have cities like Austin, right, which insane prices and things have been driven. So Houston is gradually growing, in my opinion, right? The prices are gradually going, except for last year, which was a real big bump, right? So I think it's a great market still, no matter what. And the only problem is that the hedge funds have come to Houston. So what we're doing is we're not going for major markets anymore, right? When we launch our capital raising efforts, what we'll be doing is we'll be reverse engineering our process, like I mentioned earlier, right? Before the call, where we find a market, right? And this could be like, it could even be Houston, it could be Dallas, it could be San Antonio or Austin or Waco, right? And then we are looking for the sub markets or secondary markets, and within those, because we know how to read the data and reverse engineer onto our process, right? Finding the sweet spot of those sub markets is our goal. Like we've got the whole thing pretty much honed into a step-by-step, right? And when we find these properties, boom, our goal is to locate the micro market, which is essentially a very small area or a neighborhood or a zip code that brings in 20% or more gross rent multipliers, right? Which, as I mentioned earlier, other people call it gross ROI. And it translates to 20% of your purchase price, and that's our specialty.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and it's a lot to digest, right? Really, just everything that's going on in the market. You have interest rates, you have money coming into Texas from different places. Maybe it's a bit saturated, so it's hard to know where to turn at times.
Yeah, and I mean, just it's about really knowing your numbers at the end of the day, right? As an investor, you've got to know your numbers. You can't predict how things are going to shift always, right? You could sort of be preventative, I think, and you could prepare, right? But you can't predict. So to me, it has been an ever-changing market, right? We've made a lot of changes since day one. We are so evolved, right? And then we're honing it. Like the more you do something, the better you get at it, right? So and that's how you know. So that's been our process, right? And we're just so proud of how we do it and how we're refining everything we do. So I humbly say that, like I don't know many people out there that know how to acquire a short-term rental like we do, right? And this is from every little step in the acquisition process, right? And then we did acquisitions for many years. So now we've taken, what we learned as an real estate acquisition expert, right, or specialist, and we've combining it to now really being a short-term rental acquisition expert, right? So we've combined those two. So when you have, when you build experience over 5 years almost, right, and then you understand how the markets fluctuate year over year, right? Because I've seen fluctuations since 2018. 2018 was good. You could list a property in Airbnb or VRBO, and any property would make money. When I started, there was 6,000 listings in Houston. There's 16,000 today. 16,000. So you really have to hone in and focus on being the best at what you do, right? And being on top of your market if you want to be successful in Houston, right? The days of just throwing a property on Airbnb are over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming that kind of separates, really the people who are honing their craft versus the people who are just kind of dabbling.
100%, right? And there are a lot of people out there that just go and list their properties. And I mean, Houston is an investor friendly, investor heavy, right? Because the prices were so, I'll say so low a few years ago, right? Because you could come buy a gorgeous house for 200,000. 250 grand, like beautiful. I bought the 3,000 square foot house for 150,000 in 2018. 3,000 square feet. Now you in the middle of Cyprus. Yeah, you can't find that anymore, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm curious as well. I know you mentioned how you're here in Houston. Obviously, you're looking for maybe other places that are a bit smaller. Of course, that at the end of the day, the numbers matter. But I'm curious as well. Are you looking for anything, any indicators like a new hospital or a military base or a power plant or maybe something that brings in jobs? Is that kind of what you're looking for the short-term rentals?
Great question, Aaron. Great question. So there's a couple ways, right? So I look at demographics when I'm doing research. So outside of the numbers for short-term rentals, the numbers might be good. I also want to see if the city's growing. What's the GDP like? How much are people making per year? What's the average, right? The median salary out there. I want to see the growth of that city, right? So that's the first thing. Then I go, if I'm looking into secondary markets, obviously, I already know Houston is growing, right? I already know the Woodlands is growing. So if I'm going into secondary markets, let's just say outside of San Antonio, right? I'm just giving you an example. I will look for growth in that city. Also, I will look for entertainment centers, areas where people like to travel, right? And then I will look for bodies of water, right? Bodies of water give me the ability to do that. And also I like to have, it just depends. Sometimes even a body of water doesn't make the property profitable because the prices might be good, right? So people go out there, oh yeah, I'm on the lake, I'm on the water. Well, you're paying $300 a square foot, so you're not going to make any money. So you got to find something, or it's all I would say, it's all about your numbers when you're plugging them in. If the numbers make sense, then everything makes sense, right? So those are some of the indicators, brother.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't, want to get too into the weeds about, a lot of the numbers because at the end of the day, the numbers count, but I'm just curious about other smaller factors that are kind of part of the equation to acquiring the short-term rentals.
Yeah. So we essentially it's always about your market, right? So I call it the 5 pillars, right? There's 5 steps really getting a very profitable or 6-figure, what I call it 6-figure short-term rental, which translates to taking a median house, converting it into more of a luxury type of house, right? So my 5 steps to growing this type of business would be like, first is finding the perfect market, right? We reverse engineer that, as I mentioned earlier. we go market, then we sub-market, and we find a micro market, the area that has great numbers, right? So once we've identified the market, then we pick the properties, right? Acquiring or picking the perfect property. So that property could be a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. It could be a condo. It doesn't matter as long as the numbers are good, right? So obviously these types of properties tend to be, like lean on bodies of water or having pools and stuff like that. But that just means absolutely nothing in today's market, because even if you have all those amenities, I've seen how people lose, right? So once you've got the right property, it's because the numbers worked, right? And because the market worked, because in the market research part of this whole equation is all about the short-term rental market and the growth of short-term rentals, the growth of real estate. Picking the right property, you're honing in onto a very small list of things, right? And that small list of things are going to be amenities in your properties. What's the number of bedrooms, square footage, like if it's updated or not, right? And then after you pick the property, now you've got a good foundation, right? And now it's all about making this foundation look really good, right? So when we take a client in, it'll be market, property, staging, design, right? So you've got to really source 5-star staging and design, because you could have a nice property, it could be in a nice market, but if you don't stage it and design it to the standards of that top 10%, then you're not gonna, like, you could do well and you could make some money, but you're not gonna be maximizing, right? Being on the top 10%, right? So our goal is to drive a lot of our clients that are in the top 10%. Obviously, if they come in and they have a property, and then we work with them and they already had a property, sometimes it might not be in the right market. So I can't say that I take everyone to be on the top 10%, but if they follow our step by step, then it's a lot easier to put this client, right, or you as an investor, and then basically hand you this top 10%, performance, because we've done all the steps right. Then after you design and stage it, step 4, right, it's going to be marketing, right? Effective, legitimate marketing. But guess what happens when you're in the right market, you have the right property, and you have the right staging and design. Now you've got a great product. It's $100 million offer, right? So what I mean by that is, I read this book called $100 Million Offers. That's what I'm saying. It's a great product. When you have a great product, it's a lot easier to market it, manage it, satisfy the client, and offer the guest experience that people are looking for out there, right? Because it's an experiential industry. That's where the pivot is, right? Whoever offers the best experience with the best product wins, right? So now you're marketing, you're doing direct bookings, you're doing VRBO, Airbnb, you're doing midterm bookings, right? Now you're getting your property full. The next step is guest experience, right? We really hone into making sure we deliver a 5-star guest experience. So those 5 steps pretty much break down our 5 pillars to creating 6-figure short-term rentals.
Absolutely. And, I appreciate the insight there. And I find it so interesting, kind of, it seems like your background in the heavy marketing and hospitality, it's really blended together nicely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've kind of come out of my shell. I've always been a people person, and I've always been out there. But to be talking about this right now, Aaron, so just fluent and so easy, and it's coming from inside, right? I guess me being out there talking to thousands of people over the 10 years of my life has helped. Because at first, even in real estate, I was like, I don't know, like I was very skeptical about going on stages, by the way, right? And I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't like stages. But then I was like, how can I spread my message? How can I make more people, right? How can I help more people? How can I create, the following, the mass movement, right? The superstar movement that I'm talking about. Like, the only way to do that is to talk to the masses, right? And that's when I realized I got to get good at speaking. I got to get good at, like podcasting, right? I got to get on stages. So I started doing what I was afraid of, right? So which took me to stepping up to the next level, to where I could really spread my message about helping other people with short-term rentals, about helping, like how I really got my name out into the industry was by spreading my message, by getting out of my comfort zone about speaking on podcasts, about going live, about speaking on the stages. I speak on stages, about 3 to 5 times a year right now. Not a lot. I'm speaking at another mastermind here, and I'm speaking at Capital Con. My friend Brad's in the next one. You have to move it, but I love speaking, right? And because I can touch people's lives, all more than one at a time, right? So, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I'll say that's definitely pretty cool. And it's interesting as well. It's not, to you, it doesn't seem like it's just about the transaction. You use the word movement, right? Which implies, we're all kind of going together, and I can see that it's really something that you're passionate about.
Very, and at the end of the day, for me, is people want a cost, right? So I'm a firm believer, and I love that. Thanks for pointing that out, right? People want a cost. I'm a firm believer that us as real estate investors, like, we can be superstars, right? Like, we deserve that cash flow from our businesses. Consistency. We deserve the predictability. We deserve that baseline, right? And that's what short-term rentals bring outside of any strategy. Now, you obviously could do a bunch of apartments, you can make $100 a door, and that's cool, right? So I will do apartments in the near future because they go up in value, and it will do part of them. Short-term rentals, I have nothing against multifamily. I just love this because anybody can go and get a house, right? Anybody can create a property, just like I've done it. I did it when I was broke, right? I started this business, and now I have several properties that bring me over 100 grand. Like, our biggest property brings us 170-ish thousand a year, right? So I can't say we broke 200,000 a year yet, but we have several properties that do that, right? And then now we're just boom. Like, if I could do it, you could do it, Aaron, and then Michael could do it, and that's how this whole idea of a movement came out, just from like really wanting to build a cost for us, right? For us to really create that freedom that we're wanting through real estate, right? Because we all want that at the end of the day. We want the freedom. We want to spend more time with our kids. We want to have a little more time with the wife and be able to go out and take a little vacation. And short-term rentals can be part of that, right? Because you can't have a house, and you can travel to like Lakeway, Texas, or Austin, and go to the lake, and your house is there. You're renting it, making money from it. Cash flow is great, but it can also be part of your life and lifestyle. You can take your wife, your kids there. Like, that's what I love about the business model.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely a nice point to touch on as well. Kind of bringing those two worlds together, business, and then of course, enjoying yourself. Hey, this is my place. I can go enjoy when I want, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
George. And I'm curious, if is there anything that you haven't said that you'd really just like to hit home for us? What's next for you? How can our audience help you?
Absolutely. Well, I want to hone in just a little bit of like the three things that I want to share of how I think that everybody should take away from just listening to this, right? So, and then those three things have are my our core values, right? And then I have more than three, but the three are the ones I want to share with everybody, right? So, to me, it's for us, right? For us to get to where we want to be, there's three things, right? Number one is growth and learning. To me, it's always been about growth and learning, right? I'm an addict for growth, and I'm an addict for learning. I essentially spend 1 hour a day minimum between listening to podcasts, listening to books, or watching one of my 45 courses on whatever topic, learning and growing, right? I do personal development, so that's been all about my growth, right? So that has been like the most impactful thing for me, because you can want to make as much money as you could make, right? But if you are not performing, if you are not growing inside, whether it's emotionally, spiritually, your body, health, right? And in other areas of your life, then it's not just about business, right? So the second thing to me is purpose. Having a cause within you that drives you. My cause for me is my family. I just had my son, right? My son's name is Ethan, and he's our everything, right? My wife and I, we recently got married, my wife and I, right? Like 8 months ago, right? So I've got a new cause and purpose for me, and then my cause is my people, right? My superstars, right? I feel like I can help everybody in my community, right, just make it one little step in their lives, and that's through what we do in short-term rentals, right? And then the third thing is process, right? As you grow and learn, as you really have purpose, and which is the why, right? Grow and learn is the what, right? And then the how. The purpose is the why, right? And then process, it's improving your process, right? And to me, those three things, if you take nothing else out of this conversation, is that you can focus on three things, and over time, these three things will compound, over time on each other, and then you will start seeing results, right? You'll start making more money. You'll start feeling better. You'll start having better relationships. So it's just not about money and the transactions. It's about the cause, right? So that's what I wanted to hone into the audience. I hope that was valuable for everybody. And then for me, like, if you guys want to hang out with me, I mean, I literally have a group, right? And then I'm doing a training. I do trainings every Tuesday, right? So I have a group, and the group is thenewrealestateinvestor.com, right? So thenewrealestateinvestor.com. So that's our Facebook group. That's our hub. We put all of our content. We talk about everything. We have a really cool family there. And I also have a training, right? And then the training is basically my business model, right? And it's a free training. It's about an hour. It's a training that was recorded while I was speaking at my friend Javier's mastermind, right? And he's a multi-family real estate investor. So I was showing my business models on how to create six-figure short-term rentals to about 30 eight-figure business owners, and I was on fire, brother. So if you guys want to see an on fire training, I think the website for that is sixfiguresdr.com, right? So I'll double check when we get off the phone just to make sure that, because we changed our our domain recently. But yeah, brother, those are the few things that I have for you. I hope that like you guys listen to that, and I hope everything I said serves everyone.
Absolutely. No, that's some excellent insight. Maybe we're in Houston, maybe we're an investor in another part of the state, another, state outside of Texas. Where can we find it? We know the Facebook group. Do you have a website or?
Absolutely. So our website is creativestrwealth.com, right? And if somebody just wants to connect with me, like, that's where we talk about, what we do, right? And if somebody wants to connect with me, and I'm sure we'll put all these, I'll send you these 4 links when we get off to, it'll be georgesalas360.com. And that simply just takes you to all my social medias, right? And then we can connect on Facebook. We can connect on my YouTube channels there. Our podcast soon, right? And end up, like, I even got my phone number in there. If you guys want to connect, you can send one of my lines, and then we'll connect. Love it.
Absolutely, George, and we'll make sure to have those in the show notes for this for our podcast today. I've sure learned a lot about you. A bit about your background, kind of those lessons you learned early on, really translating into where you're at with the short-term rental business and the services you offer. So thank you again for coming on the show, George. It's been a real pleasure.
Brother, thank you, and it's been an honor.
All right, we'll talk to you later.